It's Gideon Haig over here.
And it's Peter Lawler over here.
And welcome to Cricket et al., your independent cricket podcast. We're separated by a continent. Pete is in Perth. I am joining him tomorrow night. But so Pete's been getting his land legs on the tour and finding that Perth is pretty much where he left it. Would that be your sense of Perth, Pete? I know that we both love it so much.
Before we get to Perth, Gideon.
Yeah.
Have you joined a Roy Orbison tribute? What's going on there?
I'm thinking more like Ray Charles.
Ray Charles?
No,
really?
I had a cataract removed on Monday. So
right.
I'm doing lots of this with my eye drops every 4 hours, and I'm trying to keep away from bright lights. So they're like I'm coming to Perth.
They do look like the sort of glasses that come with a Labrador.
They come from the chemist.
Did you get a dog with them?
No, I didn't.
A Labrador.
No, they cost me $5 at the chemist. So,
$5.
Yeah.
Keep the receipt. You might be able to take them back when you're done with them.
Yeah, cheap at half the price. Yeah.
So you've had a cataract removed from your eye. Was your vision bad?
It was pretty bad, yeah. I've always been right eye dominant, which is curious because I wasn't really aware of that. And I discovered when I did my last eye test that my right eye had deteriorated very badly. So far from I was trying to favour an eye that wasn't really working. And that explains quite a lot about my batting over the last couple of years. And they said, look, you can get really, really thick glasses, or you can go and get a cataract removed. And I thought, well, I might as well do that. It is a remarkable operation, Pete. Have you ever had one taken care of?
No.
They stick a needle in your eye, they remove the lens, and they replace it with a silica lens that immediately restores you to 20/20 vision.
Really?
It's uncanny how well I can now see through my right eye.
So you've now got an artificial lens for an eye.
I am. I'm like the bionic man.
Steve, what was his name?
Steve Austin. Yeah, I got
Austin.
the little.
I was going to call him Steve Irwin.
The little red crosses. The little red crosses.
Oh, that's pretty cool. No, but I did have an operation on my eye once because I got splinters in my eye.
Did you really?
Yeah, I had an itchy eye, and I went to the doctors, and they sent me to the optometrist. The optometrist said, "You've got splinters in your eyes," and they had to dig them out with a needle.
Did they have an idea of how that happened?
Well, they said it usually happens when you're using sort of heavy machinery or something. I don't know.
Okay.
The only thing I could think of was I'd been sitting next to Malcolm Conn while he was typing furiously, and bits of plastic had flown up off the keyboard into my eyes. I do recall that I had a long wait in the optometrist surgery, or whatever those people are called, pessimists, optometrists, and I read JL's book with one eye. I had one hand over the sore eye and read with the other eye.
Was that Seeing the Sunrise?
Yes, it was. Actually.
It was. Yes. How perfect. How appropriate.
Well, anyway, you are correct. I've come to Perth to plump the pillows for you, so that everything's going to be just right when you arrive.
Okay.
It's still here. It's still the same. It's still vast.
Okay.
It's kind of got Texan dimensions, doesn't it? Everything's big. The sky's big. It's hot. It's windy. I think I've walked 10,000 miles, and that was, and I haven't really gone anywhere.
No, because you can't find a taxi in Perth for love nor money.
No, but anyway, I have been to the stadium. The stadium's where we left it last time.
Yep. Okay.
I attended 2 press conferences while I was at the stadium just to see if I could still do that.
Yeah. Yep.
Josh Hazlewood spoke eloquently, and there was quite a lot. There's quite a lot of media here, I've got to say. In fact, they're expecting 48 journos in the press box first day. So get in early, Gideon, and get your seat, because there's only 50 seats.
Okay.
So there's a lot of journos out from India. A lot of our old friends are out from India. It was good to catch up with them. And today was a very special day in the Border-Gavaskar Trophy calendar, because today was the day where the Indian team was going to break its media silence and finally talk to us.
Yep.
And tell us what's been going on. They've been here for about a week. They haven't said a word. They had Ashwin. So we got all very excited, and everyone piled into the press conference room there in the bowels of the stadium.
And Ashwin's always good. Ashwin's always got something to say for himself. Yeah.
He does, but he didn't show up. apparently,
come back, GS Walia. All is forgiven.
No, so we got Morne Morkel. God bless his soul. Morne Morkel, the Indian bowling coach, which I guess isn't too bad, but it's not quite a player, is it? It's not quite a big-name player. It's not a Virat Kohli. I did try and convince the Indian journalists to conduct the first half of the press conference in Hindi, just to see how Morne was going with his Hindi, but they weren't up for that. Anyway, he did adequately. It reminded me of that time they sent down the bus driver or someone in India one day after a game, showing the usual contempt for the media. Malcolm Connor asked a question about the fitness of some Indian player or other, to which the bus driver said, "I don't know." And Malcolm said, "Well, mate, how about you go back upstairs and find somebody who bloody does?" And this guy did. He left the press conference and he went back to the team room and said, "Malcolm Conn's being very mean to me. Send somebody else down." But it's not unusual. They don't really court the media like the Australian cricket does. Nor they do have no reason to do it, do they?
No, they
I remember
don't have to.
Sachin Tendulkar's last tour,
where he took the vow of silence.
Yeah. Absolute vow of silence, yes. Like a mani baba is what they say in Hindu. They're bubbas who don't talk. Remember, but they did an ambush interview with him on Channel 9. Mark Taylor did it at the SCG, the last test. Sachin came up to accept an award and somehow Tubby put his foot through the door and stuck his microphone in his face and demanded he answer a question. Right. He was so determined not to speak on that tour, Gideon. I remember that the Saka had made a special presentation to Tendulkar. Do you remember that?
Too, yeah.
Yep. It was the cloth name from the old scoreboard. Fantastic thing. I think they gave one to Ponting as well, didn't they? Because Ponting was winding up too. Ponting had to thank the Saka on behalf of Sachin because Sachin wouldn't speak in public.
Yeah. Yep. A little bit like, Harpo Marx, wasn't he? But what did Morne divulge? Did he give us any news, any meat on the bone from Mr. Morkel?
Oh, well, he said that Shubman Gill's getting better every day. The bowlers have just got to work out their own plan and stick to it and not get overwhelmed by Australian conditions.
Plans. Always good to hear about plans.
Else. Yeah, not much else. No. You noticed that article I wrote yesterday for Cricket et al. About the lack of draws in cricket and the fact that nobody really does play 5-day tests anymore.
Yes.
I think the Australians are very determined to apply the 5-day method to this.
Yes.
Well, sorry, let's put it this way. The batters are very keen to apply the 5-day method. The bowlers are very keen for it to all be every test to be over in 2.5 days because that's the only way they're going to get through 5 days. But Marnus spoke before I got here, and Josh actually mentioned the same thing about Marnus, that Marnus is one of those few batters in the world who actually leaves the ball.
Well, he did. He got out of the habit, hasn't he, over the last year or so?
And he's put his hand up for that, saying, "I have got out of the habit of doing that. I've been searching for the ball a bit more. I've got to get back to that. I've got to do what Pujara did in the last series here and just soak up a lot of balls and wear the other side down and keep them coming back." I
mean, we were both at Edgbaston last year, weren't we, where he got out first ball to Broad bowling that outswinger, and he was playing at, fifth or sixth stump. I don't think I'd ever seen him reach so wide, and that has set a bit of a trend in his batting over the last 18 months. He's been looking for the ball. I think that's, there's a degree of kidology about this. You're telling yourself that you're being busy, that you're in the business of rotating the strike, that you're not letting the bowlers dictate the terms, but you can easily get out of good habits, and those good habits were ones that got Marnus at one stage to, I think he got 400s in 5 innings, and then but that's now more than 2 years ago, and so it's 2 years since his last 100 in Australia, and the only one that he's made between times was that one at Manchester in the second innings. So
he does have a great record in Perth.
He does.
He averages 100 here. he?
He does, and he got a 77 in the Shield earlier this season in Perth. So so he needs a score, but the signs he would think are favourable to him. I mean, the fact is that Australia do know their 11. That's a huge advantage, isn't it? Going into this Test match, they basically know who's going to be playing. They know that the order that they're going to be playing in, even though Nathan McSweeney will be making his debut as a Test opener. He's sort of known that for the last week and a half, so he's had plenty of chance to adjust himself to that. Steve Smith, he's back where he belongs, probably at number 4. I was just looking at before. He's a good chance to pass 10,000 Test runs this season at some stage. And he's got starts.
About 900 away, isn't he?
He's actually 9,685. So if he goes at the normal Steve Smith rate, he will pass it this summer. And he's got starts in his last
from Steve Waugh, away from Steve Waugh.
Yeah,
I think.
Yep. He's got starts in his last 3 innings, and he's looked really good, and not quite turning into a big innings. And Perth is a great possibility for him.
Yeah, there's a lot of chat, isn't there, about whether McSweeney is the appropriate person to be opening in a big series like this, but we forget pretty quickly, don't we? I was just looking back at the last 2 Border-Gavaskar Trophies played in this country.
Yep,
and who opened for Australia in 17-18? Aaron Finch was opening the batting for Australia with Marcus Harris.
It's 18-19, I think, but
sorry, 18-19, whatever year it was.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And then Joe Burns came in late in the series, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then in the last series, you know who opened in the first Test? Matthew Wade.
Indeed he did.
With Burns, didn't he?
Yeah. Yep.
Before then, Warner came in, then Pukovsky came in, and Marcus Harris came in. I think they used something like 7 different openers in those 8 Test matches.
And it didn't work because some of them were specialists. So just because you've run the experiment doesn't necessarily mean that it's been a success, and you don't continue the experiment until you achieve success. But look, it's a good chance for him. We'll soon know whether he's up to it, because Perth is the acid test for an opening batsman. I tell you who else has got a great record in Perth, improbably enough, and that's Nathan Lyon.
Yep.
Who turns 37 today. Happy birthday, Nathan. He's got 27 wickets at 18 at Perth Stadium, and that's a remarkable record for a slow bowler on a pitch that bounces. It's a reminder that spin bowlers like pitches that bounce every bit as much as pace bowlers.
Yeah.
And that Nathan, as a bowler who gets a lot of topspin on the ball, does like a ball that gets above kind of waist level and brings the batsman's gloves and knee rolls into play. So he would certainly be looking forward to getting back to Perth.
Yeah, well, I think he's the highest wicket taker over here, and Marnus is the highest run scorer, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, let's turn back to India, Pete, because even though Morne is not breathing a word of the intramural machinations in the Indian camp, there is some sort of semblance of the outline of an 11 forming. We know that Rohit Sharma is not here. We know that KL Rahul will replace him. We know that Shubman Gill, we suspect strongly that Shubman Gill won't play despite his rapid healing. A broken thumb requires more than a test match off to alleviate. It seems that Devdutt Padikkal has vaulted Abhimanyu Ishwaran as in that top 3. And
Ishwaran went backwards, didn't he, in the tour games?
He did a bit. Shame running himself out in the second innings at Mackay wasn't a brilliant idea either. And it looks like Dhruv Jurel will get the nod ahead of Sarfaraz Khan. Only 2 test matches after Sarfaraz Khan made 150 against New Zealand, but obviously India strongly influenced by his forthright batting at the MCG. Did you see much of Jurel in that game?
I didn't see a lot of him, but I heard very good reports. He's a cricketer. He just loves the game. He's up for the contest. He's the sort of player you want in a series like this. So they were talking him up from a fair way out. Yeah. Who's your pick of the Indian batters this series? Obviously, Rohit's not here. So
I think Rishabh Pant.
Yeah,
He's the
me
one.
too.
He's the one I'm
He's the
super
one,
keen to
isn't
see. He's the
he?
one
Yeah.
who's got the X factor. He's the one who can take the game away from you so quickly. He's a left-hander. He's got runs in Australia. There's a sense that Australia doesn't quite know where to bowl to him still.
Yep.
So I think he will be one that will get people sitting up when he comes to the wicket. Of course, Kohli has made 100 at Perth Stadium, as I pointed out a couple of podcasts ago, and a very fine 100 it was in that first Test match that was played at the venue. It seems a long time ago now. He was Indian captain and leading from the front in that summer in 2018. But if you're looking for omens, that's a good one for Kohli.
Yeah. I talked to Hazelwood about Punt because I reckon he's just one of those blokes very difficult to bowl to. You don't mind bowling to a Kohli or to a Rohit Sharma or to blokes like that, but you do need to have a series of plans against a guy like Rishabh Pant, and I'm not sure that you can always bowl to him. In fact, I think you have to go to your plans from white ball cricket at points when you bowl to a player like that. And Hoff tended to agree with that you do need plans B, C and D with a guy like that. You do start with a test plan, which is top of off. Stop me if you've heard this before.
Well, with a classic Test batsman like a Kohli, if you bowl your kind of stock back of a length ball, you can pretty well be guaranteed he will play it with a defensive bat.
Yeah.
But there is much, much less of a margin for error with Pant. He is just so unpredictable, and this is an Australian fast bowling attack that sets its store on consistency, doesn't it? Hitting that length again and again and again and gradually wearing the batsman down. Pant probably won't let them stick to that game plan if his previous form is any guide.
No, he knocks them off his lines. All of this talk, but we haven't really talked about Jaiswal, who is an incredible player in his own right, isn't he?
He's an astounding player, isn't he? That record is awesome already. Like a lot of these players, like Padikal, I first saw him playing in the IPL, thought he was amazingly talented, wondered how he was going to make his way because there is such a huge abundance of talent in Indian cricket. You often think, how is this guy going to get past all the others who are competing with him? Over the last few years, we've seen a lot of very, very good Indian players, your Mayank Agarwals and your Prithvi Shaws, and they've all Shreyas Iyer. They've all had a run at making a place in the top order of their own. So there's enormous competition for places in a way that there probably isn't in Australia. In some ways, getting into the Indian team is the toughest battle that a lot of these players are going to face. So I'm exaggerating here slightly, but it's very, very Darwinian Indian cricket, isn't it? And Jaiswal's story is quite extraordinary, isn't it? He was found on the Azad Maidan when he was 12 years old by a coach who just spotted him playing in the nets. His family had left him behind after coming from their village with dreams of him making his way in Indian cricket. This coach kind of adopted him, turned him into his protege, watched him advance through the ranks, and now, of course, he's the celebrity coach of India. Everyone brings their child genius to him to potentially make him into a test player. But he's got that hunger. Cricket is, of course, the only thing that he's got. It's not like he's got a university degree to fall back on. He's the guy. It was cricket or nothing for Jaiswal. So an amazing experience for him to come to Australia. Cricket is really the prime Indian form of social mobility.
He's played 14 test matches. He's made 3 centuries, 8 half centuries, and he averages 56. He's some batter.
Did you watch him play against England earlier this year?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was just he took Baz ball and he shoved it straight down England's throats. He just looked absolutely awesome.
And hold my beer, hold my chai.
What about Nitish Kumar Reddy, Pete? Is there a chance of him playing here?
I'd put some money. I reckon he will.
Yeah.
I reckon there is a chance. Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's positive sounds about him around the Indian camp.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like a lot of Indian sides, I mean, of course, when India lost here in 2018-19, they famously played the 4 number 11s, and that made it very difficult for them to pad their batting out in the way that Australia has always been able to conjure runs from its lower order. I think India's now looking for ways to extend their innings as they weren't before. So if you've got Jarrell batting at 6 and you've got Jadeja batting at 7, you kind of need a ready at 8, assuming that they don't pick Ashwin, which I suspect they probably won't do in Perth. And they might pick Harshit Rana because he's actually got a first-class 100. And at number 9, that would actually make him a reasonable accompaniment. When you got Bumrah and potentially Siraj coming in at 10 and 11, it would be nice to have someone like that rather than maybe a Prasidh Krishna who can't really bat, even though he's got good wheels and potentially could bowl quite well in Perth.
They've got a lot of good young cricketers. Like that Rana's 22 years old. Reddy's still 21 years old.
Yeah.
How old's our mate Jai as well? He's 22 as well.
Yeah.
That's fantastic to have players of that much talent on hand, ready to go. And then, I mean, Shubman Gill's still very early in his career as well, isn't he? Yep. Shami is bowling over there, but Morne Morkel did point out that Shami has not really played a game of cricket for a year. It's going to be very difficult to get him up for a test match this quickly.
Yep.
If you needed to break the glass in an emergency, you might get him over for the last couple. But at this point, I'm not sure that we will see him.
Yeah, maybe not. If there was one sort of bowler in the world who you would kind of back, it would be Shami. Because he's so tough, he's so strong, he's got such fantastic underlying fitness, and his method is so simple.
Yeah,
and his core skills are so good. I'm still thinking that we might potentially see him this summer. There's a few boys in that Indian attack who, over the course of 5 test matches, it's really going to test their fitnesses because, of course, they only play over 5 test match distance against India. It applies to both sides that there's a likely level of attrition, but if you brought Shami back, I'm sure he would do a job for you. Anyway, let us wait and see. Any other mail from Perth, Pete? No other mail from Perth that I can think of, Gideon. No, we're all just waiting for you to get here, and then the fun can start. Well, the other thing that we now know, Pete, is that of course we will not have the benefit of the services of Justin Langer and Ricky Ponting in the Channel 7 commentary box. More opportunities for a young player like yourself. But how does that sit with you, Pete? The 2 IPL coaches going off to serve their other paymaster. Well, I'm all up for that because I'm going to borrow Ricky's jacket and take over the commentary team. G'day and welcome to Perth Stadium. It's Pete Lawler here. I think they're going to do the first day. Yes. Yep. They're going to do the first day. It's pretty interesting to me that India. I mean, hey, it's their world and we're all living in it, aren't we? Yep. It's interesting to me that they would put on an IPL auction in the middle of the first test of the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Why would they do that? Why exactly would they do that? I have no. I accept that it is. I accept that it is Test cricket. It's a bit like them, but did they just forget? Did they just not look at the itinerary? It's not like. I mean, they're running it in some other bloody hellhole, aren't they? It's in Saudi Arabia. It's in Jeddah. Yeah. And when I say some other hellhole, I don't mean that India is a hellhole, but they are running it in Jeddah. I don't know why they would do it. I mean, Jay Shah's a guy who likes Test cricket. I can't see him doing it for any other reason. I mean, Australia are going to lose their bowling coach. Yeah, maybe that's why India put up Morne Morkel today. It was a bit of a raspberry at Australia. At least we've got a bowling coach. Where's yours? Oh, that's right, chasing rupees. At least the IPL auction will be on apparently during the evening. rather than coinciding exactly with the play. So there's no doubt what the players will be doing when they head back to their hotel. They'll all be sitting around to see how
try and
much they're
find
going
that
to make.
out. Yeah, I wanted to ask Hazelwood if there was like plans for the IPL auction. Were we all going to watch it together? You know?
I do remember an IPL auction coinciding with a West Indies Ireland game in a World Cup, where the West Indies players seemed extremely distracted, and there were apparently whoops of delight and despair emerging from the West Indies dressing room as in fact they went down during the game, as I recall. So it's not like, players can't really tear themselves away from something that important. It's fundamental to their futures, and I kind of understand why they look upon it as something so fundamental. But it is a kind of a strange thing to have it coinciding with the first Test match of a series that is so key to both teams. In fact, Ponting did say, didn't he, that he had expected the IPL auction to fall between the first two Test matches, and that the sudden change of plans had taken him by surprise. But really, I guess nothing really should surprise us about the BCCI.
No. Well, I've been researching this series and India-Australia cricket, but I've been reading your book, Indian Summer.
Oh, good. Thank you.
On the way over.
Yep.
Excellent book. And that great piece that you wrote today, Cricket et al., that's one of your best pieces. I really enjoyed that.
Thanks, yeah.
On the history of Australian India cricket.
Yeah, and you're sort of trying to map it in terms of Australian-Indian relations, foreign relations, because it's a country that we don't actually have all that much in common with. It would not really be considered to be one of the, have key sort of cultural links outside of cricket. I know that we now like to say, it's about more than cricket, but still a lot of the relationship is based on cricket. It certainly sought that the symbolic resonances of cricket last year, Pete, when we were at Modi Stadium in Modi land.
Tony Abbott
with Narendra Modi.
Tony Abbott seems besotted by the new Indian government. Wasn't he over there recently? The BJP headquarters.
Yep.
Yeah.
Worship. Yeah. And look, it's an enormous. I think the only people who could say that who could sort of tut about us taking cricket too seriously are people who just don't understand how bloody huge cricket is in India. It's like a shared language, frankly. It's like an Esperanto that people from both countries can slip into so readily. It's amazing how much you find that you have in common with Indian people from just a walk-up start. You are from Australia? Who's your favourite player? I mean, it gets you a long way in India.
Although I've found a shift lately with the younger generation because they want to talk about IPL cricket, not Test cricket. They're not as tuned into Test cricket as our generation was, Gideon. Which is ironic, really, because I think I read this in your book. Was it in the first 50 years that Australia played India, they played about 24 Test matches. In the last 25, they played 50. Doubles it. Yeah.
Yep. And India has the edge over that distance. I think it's 21-17 in the 21st century. And there would be, I can't think of any other instances where a team has had a long-term plus record against Australia, except perhaps during the West Indies period of great dominance in the 1970s, 80s and 90s.
No, it's pretty hard to remember a side beating Australia 4 series in a row.
Yeah.
Yep. There's very few players in this Australian side, who played in a winning series against India.
Yeah.
Josh Hazlewood did in that 2-0 one. What year was that? It's a long time back.
That is a long time ago. Yeah. Of course, Pat Cummins came in, didn't he, during 2017? So he's played a lot of losing Test matches against India.
He certainly has, Ollie. Yeah. Yes. Well, when do you come over?
I arrive tomorrow night, Pete. I'm looking forward to catching up. I've got the high vis on. I'm a cricketing FIFO worker, and looking forward to being reunited with my favourite Australian stadium.
Well, I was Cafe et al. Is almost open. I was about to
Beautiful.
make my first coffee before
Okay.
you rang and said we were supposed to be potty.
Yep.
Sorry about that. I look forward to you getting here.
Okay. Well, I guess that means it's time for us to say goodbye from both of us here at Cricket et al. It's goodbye from me,
And it's good night from him.